Hello and welcome to another Agent is In. This is going to be episode number 29, and we're going to talk about doing some basic inventory of Docker with CFEngine and CFEngine Enterprise. Craig,
Yes,
what
I
have
am
you been
Craig.
doing with Docker lately?
I have been making packages, so making like enterprise packages locally, which is much easier than it was for me before. And we last episode we did some Docker stuff in GitHub, which I've been doing as well. So we tested your apt uh,
In packages?
build module, yeah, and then also I've been just using Docker and GitHub Actions a lot to like run automated tests, to build packages for other tests and things like this. Um, yeah, that's what I've been using Docker for mostly.
So what were you wanting to, I guess, inventory? You wanna show us what you inventoried, or
Yeah,
maybe tell
so
us about why?
I'll kind of yeah, let's kind of walk through what I got here. Um, so I was interested in finding out kind of what's going on with Docker. I'm not a Docker expert exactly. So I'm on a Mac right now. I'm using this Docker desktop, which also happens to install a Docker command like this. I can do regular Docker stuff like see what's running. Right now there's nothing. If you do -A, you can see like all of the containers that have been going around, and I have a lot of them. I think because I've been just running lots of builds. This build package is
Compassionate Keller and Jovial Johnson.
exactly. I mean, this one actually like kind of is amazing. Nervous Driscoll. I have a friend who has the name Driscoll. So, and then I can look at the images. I've got lots of images. I could probably this is sorted by created date. I could probably sort it by size. Um, so obviously there's a lot of stuff here. Some of them are rather large. I can do Docker system df, which is a fancy command that Nick mentioned to me the other day, which will tell me kind of where I'm at in total. I guess it takes a minute. Um, there. Okay, so I've got 27 images. There are 21 active. This is how much size they're taking up, and I guess this is probably the 6 that can be reclaimed, take up 3 gig. Containers, 0 active, but obviously, I guess in the parlance of Docker, they're all reclaimable because they're all what do you call it? Disposable. Yeah. Um, and so yeah, I'm just kind of interested in how to manage this stuff. I know for a lot of production environments, they're just like slash and burn, so it doesn't usually matter a whole lot. But for a developer, I think it matters more. And I think even in production, it's pretty interesting to have an awareness of what's going on, so you can see what's happening there. So that's kind of what I was thinking about when I was thinking about this Docker inventory. I can show what I came up with if I can find the right IP address. Okay. Okay, so this is my home hub, which is running on an ARM development board. And interestingly enough, this hub is also running in a Docker container, because the ARM board comes with the Horizon Core and a product called Portainer, which is like a web app manager for containers for Docker. So this is running inside of the container itself. If I look at reports, we'll see that I have basically a bunch of test hosts here because I was testing some kind of high load kind of stuff here. I think I was testing the paging actually in the UI. And so I've got a couple of my actual systems, and then my MacBook here. And we can look at the inventory that I created, and then we'll go back and kind of walk through creating the inventory. So I got this. Da-da-da. Wait a second for all the stuff to load. I'm tolerant and accepting and enjoy actually even the speed at which the ARM development board runs Hub, because I like things to go slower. So this is all the Docker inventory that I collected. So there's a class. It just says like, oh, do you have Docker installed? And for this, I just used a real simple test. Obviously, for more platforms to do more testing, but I'll show you what I did for that. Just basically, I just checked the path that I know where the Docker command is. It's got a list of Docker images. Looks like right now, all this is 0 because it just collected the data, and I didn't really have anything running, I think. Oh, actually, no, it's because I put it over to a different hub. So I've got like a dangling image count, which is that 6 unused images that could be culled. And then there's the names of the running containers, which typically will be nothing because I'm not really running anything long running. We can bring one up if we want to check that out. And then all these are just kind of the different statuses that a container can be. And so we'll just hop over to this other hub, which I brought up for this. And right now I've just got one little test inventory sitting here. So we can walk through getting the Docker inventory going. Okay,
Awesome.
so for this, this is all I've got right now, which is just, hey, I'm here, Docker inventory. And then, so I want to collect this information. I've got the Docker command, but what is it? Okay, so I'm going to use that to figure out where or if I have it installed. So I'll make a var for that, and I'll make a class for have Docker, and I'll just say if it exists. Just kind of nice and simple. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and inventory that have Docker. So in order to do that, I'll do the scope namespace, because classes have to be namespace scoped in order to be inventoried. And I get these tags.
Okay.
Docker installed, like that. So then I've got a little file here near me that is like just to make sure it kind of works. So I'll run that. Yeah, okay, it still works. I'm actually using a CFES project here. So I need to add that, commit it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so then I'm going to push that. And then I can just wait, or I can go faster. So this is the hub. It's just a VM on my local system. And it got the update.
The Docker. Okay.
And it's nice when you're developing stuff to have little debug messages like, hi, I ran, that kind of thing. And then, so that should run. And then we could come over here, close this. Gosh, that window gets in the way. Okay, there we go. Zoom is getting in my way. So I can collect reports. And if the demo gremlins are appeased, we might have inventory. And if we don't,
hey, test inventory. Yeah, that worked.
There we go. Docker installed. Okay, so I got Docker, so that part's good.
Hey, Craig,
that's kind of the first step.
Quick sideways on that. You can get that class information back to the hub without kind of using inventory. A lot of times, inventory, like the values, you might want to be pretty to show up on some report.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're
Yep.
going to do something with like filtering or reporting or something else, instead of using the inventory and attribute name tags, you can just tag it with report, and then
Okay.
class will be reported up to the hub. You wouldn't see it in the inventory list, but you would find it in classes. So it could be useful for other things. Just
Okay. Cool. Awesome. All right. So now I've got that have Docker business there. And once I have that, then we can start collecting our information, right? So I'm just going to leave that open there. And so how do we collect information? So I've got this Docker. I'm going to go ahead and start a Docker instance. I have a work kind of Docker instance that or container that I start up. Oh, I guess I didn't do it quite right. I need to start it with this thing. Okay. So I start it like that. And then now when I do Docker PS, we can see that there's a work container running. If I go shell, like I can get into it. And I don't remember what kind of thing this is. I guess it's Ubuntu. So, and I have my source code all mapped in here, I think right here, so I can do stuff, try things out. Okay, so now, how do we get this into inventory? A lot of times you might think, okay, well, I'll just make it a JSON stuff so that I can pull it into um,
like read
information and
data or
whatnot.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, like read JSON or something like that. I found when I was doing this business that there was some, I don't really need all that much information. And I also found that there's this Go templates, which is pretty nice. Let's see, how do I do the head of this? So if I do format and then like image, right? What else might I want to know? I mean, that's probably all I really need to know at this point. It's like I just want to know. Okay, so it just tells me what the image is. Um, and then if I do Docker ps-a, I might also want to know something about the status. So like I'll just be kind of dumb and do like CSV kind of stuff here. So you see lots of like created, exited, et cetera, et cetera. I can also, after reading the docs, I can do a filter or like status equals, let's say, created. And so this will only be the created ones. So I thought that it would be cool to get a list of, or a count rather, of all of the different statuses. So like I might say something like, so this is like any. I always just like to write this in there just to be clear. And then have Docker, and I'll do a bunch of stuff. So like status list. So I happen to look up what the statuses are. So I really care about like created, there's restarting, running, removing, pause. I'm not really too interested in that. I'm just really interested in like these three. And then I can get the number, the count for each of those by doing this. And I use the backtick as kind of an alternate quote so that I can use like normal quotes here. Just to make it a little easier to type and like copy paste like the commands from here to there. And I don't really need to do the format thing, but that's fine. It's just kind of a copy paste from other stuff. So if I do this, I do that, and then reports, I could probably go down here and say have Docker, and then something like, let's see, like Docker containers, status list, status count, status list. Let's see if this works. Oh, well, that's because I misspelled it. Result.
That's my favorite trick.
It says typos. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I have Docker. I have Docker. I have Docker.
Container status.
Status list. Status exec result Docker. Let's check that command.
Yeah,
Let's see. Doc goes ps. Or what was it? This one. So Docker ps a filter status equals created. Yeah, okay. Really, that should just be like this. Status count. Status list, status count, status list. Why didn't that work, Nick?
I'm sorry?
Why didn't that work, Nick? Why don't I get any reports?
Let's see here. Have Docker, and then you've got, if you have Docker, then you have a status list, status count for each status list, int the exact result.
Oh, I see.
I have to escape the dollar, remove it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now I see that I have 16 created, 537 exited, and 0 dead. Okay. So then my next step would be, let's make that inventory. So I can make that inventory by adding some business here. Meta inventory attribute name equals, and for this one, Docker status list count, like that. And then at this point, I think I'm probably good. So I have this other script in here that I use to build and run CF promises, and that looks good. So I added some things. Okay. And then I'll commit it and I'll push it. And then just to speed things up, I'll update it on the hub. I could set it to like every 1 minute or something like that, but even that's not fast enough for live coding anyway. Okay, so we'll do this update. And it looks like it got it. Do that. Okay, so yeah, it got the update. And then we can come back here and collect reports. And then, yeah, great. So we have Docker exited. Yeah. So, now that we have that, we could do inventory, and you could filter, say, on Docker installed. This is kind of what I did, is reported. Okay, so now I'm just looking at the hosts that have Docker installed, and then I can insert these columns of created and exited. And now I have a report and I can get rid of this one. So yeah, and you probably noticed that I'm running enterprise on a MacBook, Mac OS. So there's a few things that are not quite ready, but we're working on that. So I'll remove those. So yeah, so now I've got a nice report, like Docker accounts, let's say. So that's that one. Yeah. And that's the basic idea. So, we can extend that to some other stuff like the running names, what's running, or we could do like the images, right? And there's a lot of different ways to slice things up. Like I know Nick and I were talking about this, and he would, what was it? You would create like a inventory. They'd be like the image name and like the size, maybe.
Yeah, I have a tendency to like blow up the inventory with like
Right.
iterating over things. So I might do like, yeah, the size of each image. And my natural tendency it would be to like iterate and make the attribute name like unique for each image name.
Right.
But then that creates, in inventory attributes, and so might be better to do where you have the image sizes all together, and then you just report each one having like a inventory name of image size where the value is the image name equals the value. And then you have,
Right.
and then in Mission Portal UI, you'll have a list. Let's see here. Exec result images format repository and tag.
Yeah, so
And
it would be kind of cool maybe to be able to like write a report there that says, like give me all the hosts that have images over such and such size. Like that'd be a thing you could do, right?
right.
If you said like image and then the value was size.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this right here that I'm writing is just I'm gonna get the repository colon tag, which is how you do the like a Docker pull.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just gonna get all the images as a single string, and then the way that this works is that it it outputs it as individual lines. So I just split the lines up into an S list and then save it off into inventory, um, so that it's just a single inventory item with the list of images. So I can add this to my reports. I think I have this. So images list, and I like to do all this stuff locally, like on the host that I'm gonna do it, that I am expecting it to run on, so that I can kind of check it out and make sure it looks good. So yeah, so here we have this whole images list here, which is an
Mm-hmm.
S list, a single. So that looks good. I'll check it with my check script. So it does CFS build, runs CF promises on promises done update. That looks good. So I'm adding this images, Docker image list inventory. So that's good. Commit images list inventory. And then push it. And then go through the same business here again. Add it. And I should see the list there. Yeah, okay. And then I can go back to this one. And I'll just go ahead and collect reports again. And so I think one thing I'll mention is that I think I already mentioned, like I'm not an expert with Docker really. And so um, I've ended up with a lot of stuff laying around. Um, and there are commands and things to do, like there's a Docker prune command, which will
Mm-hmm.
remove all the images that are being unused. Um, Unfortunately for me, I don't think that works because I'd like to keep images that I might use in the future, and I like to try to, kind of conserve bandwidth and all that kind of stuff. So um,
Bandwidth Conservation Society.
I know, right? So here's my Docker image list.
So
Um, yeah,
there's one thing that I would recommend changing in that policy, like after watching you write. So here, this is actually an actual list that's reported.
yes, yes,
Um, but then there's potential for that to get truncated. Um,
yeah, right, because it's a
in the
certain
enterprise
size.
reporting
Yeah,
because it
yeah,
gets to a certain size. So what I would typically do, like on your policy, instead
mm-hmm.
of inventorying the list itself, I would just have that list, and then I would have a new uh, associative array, like a classic array. I
Oh,
would
right.
iterate over that list and define individual strings as part
Oh,
of
right.
an associative array for each one, but where they all share the same attribute name. and it will look
Right.
identical and it'll function identical in Mission Portal, but it won't be subject to that same data.
So
So
so you'd have like images list and then the name, like image name, like this.
actually, so what I would do is maybe just like, so you already have an images list variable.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Right, right. So it'd be like
so
an images
line
array.
11, I would swap the comma for a semicolon,
Okay,
and then I would do a new line, and then I would have, yeah, images
right.
array, images list.
Would you separate out like the names like this?
Uh, no,
Okay.
I would do the same thing. So I would do images, or yeah, image. Let me see here. Yes. So then in your hard brackets,
Mm-hmm. Oh, here.
yeah. So then you would have like each one, right? So what is
Right.
your each images? Yeah, images.
It would, I haven't figured it out yet, but yeah, like I would put each name, the repository tag stuff up there. I would
Wait, you
figure
have
what
image
those are out, and
string.
then I would do this kind of stuff. So you're saying like make an inventory item for each image name, right? Or
No. So I
no,
would
okay.
do the right. So yeah, that's your image list, right? So I would iterate on that image list,
Hmm.
right? And then the image list would also, so it'd be both the key and the value. They would
Oh,
be
so you make it
identical.
okay. Okay, right.
So if
I
you
see what
hop
you're
back
saying.
over into the policy and you iterate on
Name, let's
images
say.
list in the key, and then do string and then images list for the value,
Oh, okay. Like this.
yeah, and then close string and then images list for the value,
Right.
and then there, comma,
Then do
meta
the inventory. Right.
inventory, and I would use the same name
Right. The
that you
same
used
name
before.
over and over. Right. Okay.
Yeah, Docker image list. I wouldn't make it unique. For some things, I
Right.
mean, I have a tendency to make them unique because then it can be easier to set up conditions and different alerts and things like that. Like if you're just using the UI, but it also kind of blows up the number of individual attributes.
Right. Okay. So let me just list this. We'll go back to top. So the images array, right?
Yeah, so move line 12 to line 14
Yep.
and convert line 11's comma to a semicolon.
You know how to edit with Ed. Good job.
I gotta say, it takes a lot of mental power to keep up with your ed.
Yeah. That's funny. So then if I do something like this and run this, then I should have a
Whoop,
problem. Okay.
missing
That's
comma.
okay.
What is it?
Yeah.
So you got semicolon.
Oh,
Oh
I
yeah,
see it. I
line
see it.
11.
Oh, I see what I did. Okay. This is an Ed problem. Yeah, I see. Do this. There we go. Okay. Still not happy. That's
And
okay
now
because I did
syntax
it
error because you got a
again.
semicolon in the middle of your split string.
There we go. Okay. So right.
There
So
we
then, so now I have, okay. So you have like uh, right, an array of just like one-to-one mapping. Okay. Okay. So that's cool. Um, just check it. And so we adjusted this.
go.
Um, uh, make images array instead. Okay. And then push. And then grab it on the hub so that the host can grab it. All right, so that's that. And then suppose we could probably grab the,
And it should look no different.
okay,
If we should not notice any change.
right. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that looks the same.
I think the difference there is the order.
Okay, sure. Right. The difference being the
And
order, right?
the other difference is that if you have multiple
That
identical image, I guess you wouldn't have identical images. Multiple nuns. Yes, you could have that. That won't show in the way that I inventoried it. Large amounts of data being truncated, exactly. But it does suffer then from, like, if you have multiple images that are none,
hmm
it it
Oh,
collapses.
collapses
You
them.
only see one instance of that. It's like the
Okay.
unique
Right.
names, I guess.
Right. I
So
run this. And yeah, at this point, I know I have like 6 or so of the nuns here.
right, but
Right.
you only have
So
one.
there's, yeah, it's collapsed. Right. Okay. Well,
So that is
I think
yeah,
it's, yeah, I could, I had made this, in the other one, I had made a Docker dangling image count. And in that case, those would just collapse and I would kind of know that information from there instead. So yeah, we can add this Docker image list here. And so then, we could do like a filter on, Docker image list contains none. And so now we see that there's a
there's at
host that
least
has
one.
these images that are likely dangling and taking up space. So
Cool.
that's the idea. So just be able to, CFEngine, you want to collect information that's useful. You can run reports. We could write, we could go in and like write like a compliance
Compliance
report,
report.
and then that could filter its way up to the dashboard so that it can notify you and kind of give you a heads up that one of your systems needs some maintenance. And then you could even use the information that we collect in the policy to then run commands. Like maybe you don't want to do Docker prune exactly, but maybe you want to get rid of all images that are not in a whitelist, for example.
Mhm.
Maybe which images you want. Um, and really, again, like it's more of a with Docker, it's more of like a development environment situation that would need a lot of cleanup because typically in production you would be like kind of slash and burn your hosts, bring them back around whenever you needed to. But I still think that it's very useful to just have that uh,
Have that
perspective, that
information. I mean, even in
information.
production, I think you need
Yeah,
to purge that, right? There, like, it's just gonna keep the stuff from
yeah,
previous generations, unless
yeah,
you do something about it. So
exactly,
definitely some
exactly.
actions that can be taken on it.
Yeah.
Do you
So
think that we'll see something like this come out on the build? Are you going to publish a
I
module?
do. I do
Yeah.
think that we're going to get some Docker inventory. So ideally, I'm interested because I've worked on getting CFEngine Enterprise worked up on Yocto, and Horizon Core is um, Yocto underneath. And so, if I go to that host and do Docker PS, you can see I've got my hub instance running and my Portainer instance running. So I want to get this stuff back into down into like Yocto so that we can,
Hmm.
on these embedded systems that are, because more and more we're doing people are doing development with containers on embedded devices.
Hmm.
And this is something that we can use. We could inventory this information, this how much is reclaimable,
Exactly.
that kind of stuff.
And
Um,
track it over time with MonitorD.
right, and there's also Docker Stats, which actually shows you
Ah, values.
CPU and things like this. So
That looks
maybe you want to track memory, that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
there's a lot of stuff we could do here. Plenty of stats to collect and reflect up into Mission Portal and do all those things that we can do, like reporting and compliance and alerts.
Cool.
Yeah. So
Cool.
there you go.
Well, does I think I exhausted all of my questions that I was having about it. Does anybody else who have any questions? Let me see if there's anything in the chat. I don't see. Oh, any plans for like other container backends, like Container D or anything like that? Are you playing with any of those things, or are you just using Docker mostly right now?
I've been just using Docker lately because I've been working so much with GitHub, and it's just kind of easy there.
Hmm.
Certainly before that, I was mostly using Builda. Um, so I mean, there's lots of different ways
To
to make
get some.
to wrap around the basic functionality in the Linux kernel. So um, yeah, certainly can do lots of things. I think many of the alternatives work about the same as Docker. So we could probably leverage any kind of command line stuff that we do
Right.
in other places. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing, Craig. And thanks everybody for joining us for episode 29 of The Agent is In.